While Barack Obama was the first president to formally use social media, Donald Trump has already redefined what it means to be president in the social media age. Not surprisingly, activists have followed suit. Hashtags like Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, and even the Ice Bucket Challenge showed us early on how powerful a role social media could play in activism. The new class of 2017 hashtags like Women's March and A Day Without Immigrants have essentially revolutionized revolt.
That's true, and here to talk about what could be the most important political phenomenon since TV first hit the campaign trail are Diana Scholl, the social media manager for the ACLU. Welcome to BK Live.
Thanks for having me.
We're also happy to welcome back Charles Kahn. He's the organizing director at the Strong Economy for All Coalition and one of the planners for the Trump Taxes March coming up on April 15th.
Good to be here.
And Norman Cohen is an award-winning content producer currently working with hashtag GetOrganizedBK. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Well, guys, I'm going to start with one that I'm going to open up to all of you, so feel free to jump in as you see fit. How has social media changed the way we talk about social issues?
This has gotten you a job for starters, right? That's a
That's
position
true.
that
I always
exists.
say, when I was in college, Facebook started, so it wasn't like I grew up thinking I would be a social media manager. I think it has allowed a lot of voices to be present that weren't before. It takes away the filter. Anyone can send out a tweet or post on Facebook and have their voice be heard to many people.
For better or for ill.
Right.
I think in the end, it's for better.
Yeah, and I think it's brought in a lot of voices, and I think social media has given, like, for better or for worse, people the opportunity to educate themselves about issues and for them to find things that resonate with themselves. You know, the Tax March, it came from a tweet. It was a tweet that said, Donald Trump thinks that no one cares about seeing his taxes. 20,000 retweets later, Patton Oswalt, Michael Moore, Bo Willimon. All of a sudden now there's hundreds of thousands of people that want to take to the streets to make their voices heard in the real world and not just online.
Well, we're looking at some of that Twitter fallout from the people get very creative on the internets. But what about transferring that? Get Organized definitely uses all of these platforms as a tool, but it also spurs people to get off their couch and stop thumb typing.
Yeah, Get Organized definitely started as a real, not virtual get-together. I mean, right after the election, people wanted to do something. It was really shocking to a lot of people who feared for the erosion of our civil rights, gender rights, economic, successes that have been made, and all sorts of things. So still is, and I think it really started as City Councilman Brad Lander saying, let's organize, and then having a space being given to him at a synagogue, Beth Elohim, and then people coming, 1,200 people coming. So social media sort of had to piggyback on that, and then Grab sort of came afterwards. We just launched, GetOrgBK handle weeks later, months later after that. So it was sort of coming after the physical getting together of people. And since then, it's helped, be a megaphone for that too, and bring it to a national audience in some ways.
Right.
Well, speaking of national and even international audiences, the ACLU, how do you guys utilize these social media platforms in 2017 to do the work that you do?
Yeah, so first of all, give a little context. Before the election, we had about 200,000 something Twitter followers. Now we have 1.1 million. We had the 600,000 Facebook, now 2.1 million. So it's been a huge growth. And we've seen, we use social media almost like a news source now. It's giving people information they need, as well as a way to engage our supporters and amplify voices of people who wouldn't have a platform. Now we have, if someone tweets, it was Muslim Women's Day the other day, so they said, Muslim women, come to us and tell us all the cool things you're doing. And now we have a platform where we can retweet those voices and share them with millions of people.
What are the platforms you use most?
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are our main platforms. We do have a presence on Reddit as well.
So what do you guys feel about all of the voices sort of in this sphere? Because we talked about Barack Obama sort of being the first presidential person who gets it. And now on the other end of the spectrum, we have Donald Trump who's sort of doing an in-run around the media and demonizing some folks saying, oh, I can speak directly to the people. What about these sort of folks who are mobilizing it who don't really believe your messages?
I mean, I think that's always been the beauty of America, right? Is that people with differing viewpoints all have the opportunity to express themselves. On social media, there's lots of trolls, right? Like that's really the tough part, is dealing with people that are not there for substance, they're not there for debate, they're just there to kind of have a little bit of fun at someone else's expense. But I think it's been amazing. It's brought organizations and movements together, and it's let them reach people that they never would have been able to reach before, right? Right now, I think it was 2014 was the first time where, on average, Americans spend more time online than they do watching TV, right? So that's where you have to go to find people. And you see things like Black Lives Matter or Occupy Wall Street or the ACLU at the airports, and those came from nothing, right? In a matter of weeks and days, hundreds of thousands, millions of people are now, standing up behind these rallying cries, and I don't think it would be possible in such a short period of time without social media.
Right, but does it really create change, right? I mean, there are some that would argue that it's not enough to change power, and that we really have to kind of still take it, we get it online, but then we got to take it offline to actually make change within an office. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's a tool like anything else. I'm a bit old school. I came of age in the TV pre-internet. I was a TV producer, and I think the powerful stories can be told anywhere. And so Twitter, Facebook continue our ability to tell those stories. And I think if you have the powerful story and the powerful content, you're going to get eyeballs no matter what the tool is. But it is chaotic. It really is chaotic. And does it lead to actual change? I think it's competing against a lot of things, but I think the spirit of change is in the air anyways right now. And so people are receptive to it, whether they get it from old media or Twitter or lots of places.
And I would echo that it's a tool. It doesn't work on its own. It works in conjunction. As you mentioned, I think the day of the Muslim ban of the airport, I think that was a really good example. Like ACLU, as you probably know by now, we sued on behalf of two Iraqi refugees. And then I went to the airport, just started tweeting what was happening. Other people started going to airports. Other people were tweeting. We were able to amplify other voices of people who were at these protests. And people wouldn't have known about these protests if it wasn't for social media. That's how, the mainstream media eventually did pick it up, but it all started.
Wait for live at 5 before you your friends have been there for 4 hours already.
So yeah, I think it's a tool and it's a news source, and it serves a lot of different functions. So I would never say it's enough on its own, but I would not dismiss it.
So how do each of you cut through the noise? Like you talked about the trolls, and there's a lot of just noise there, and things are coming at you, and the least of which are like ads, and then there are people who are just out there. So are there specific techniques or things that you guys do to sort of cut through all of that, or do you just put your voice out into the abyss like everyone else?
So we have, as you can imagine, a lot coming at us, a lot from different directions. Yeah. I'm lucky enough I have someone who, after the election, actually the head of my department saw me. She's like, "You look really tired. Do you need help?" So someone who came in, and she's been working with me, and part of her job is just monitoring what's happening and reading the messages and reading the comments. So I'm lucky to have that. But it's seeing, there's ways to see hashtags. There's ways to see if people are serious or not serious, like you said. People who are engaging because they're interested in having a conversation versus people who are just trying to say, "Gotcha."
One thing I really appreciate about Get Organized Brooklyn is when City Councilman Lander founded it, he said, this isn't about me. This is about just being able to give a space for different groups to pop up. Right. And there are, I think, 11, 12 working groups covering things like women's health, immigration, and they're all doing their own thing. And in some ways, and many of them have their own Twitter feeds. So initially, when I started with some others, the hashtag and the channel on Twitter, GetOrgBK, I was frustrated. Why can't everyone use this? And that other people were using their others, and I wanted this control. But it's just this flourishing online of just different communities that are doing their own thing, and hopefully we all coordinate, but sometimes we don't, and that's just how it is.
But Charles and Norman, you guys, in my mind, you're like two sides of the same coin. Like you are ready to mobilize people and get them out for the march on tax day, and you, in the same vein, you guys have all these working groups and you're ready to affect real change, and you're getting past the sort of hashtag activism that so many people criticize, or you sign a Facebook petition and I'm done my good deed for the day. So how do we keep these sustained fire and get the people who are the sort of hashtag activists to convert and actually go out of their couch and use themselves and their talents to push the kind of change we want to see forward?
I mean, I think for me, it's always been about relationships. You know, like I was a field organizer with the Obama campaign, right? Like back then, I didn't really use social media that much, and it all happened on the ground. And they always said that the folks that may come out for the issue in the beginning, but they stay for the relationships. And I think with the tax march, what we've really done is, 40,000 people signed up just in New York to be a part of the tax march. But since then, we've really invested and tried to organize on the ground, meet people in real life, right? Talk to those people in real life and really explain these broader things, because we want Donald Trump to release his taxes so that we know if he has conflicts of interest. But we also understand that we want to make sure that schools are funded, right? We want to make sure that we're building infrastructure, that people have health care, and we know that has to do with taxes and funding. And that's the kind of narrative that we're building online and in the real world, so that after the protests, people stay involved. So that after the protests, people have something that they can plug into and that they can carry and that they can have a piece of.
And I will add that social media is a tool for building community. ACLU, after so many people have contacted us, how can we help? We launched People Power, which is our grassroots arm, and there was an in-person event where people would meet in their communities, and now they're working together to get police departments to treat immigrants well, essentially. So, but these communities, they use the Facebook groups or different things to stay in touch. So I think these relationships happen online and offline.
What are some things that you guys have found that definitely worked for you in your social media campaigns that you would want to highlight that were just amazing, and some things that you were surprised actually didn't work at all, possibly?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think having a hook to an event is really important. We did a die-in, but it was very visual. People brought tombstones on how the ACA repealed. So it was a photo opportunity, and for doing PR on that, we've very much reached out to photographers to come cover it, and that image ended up going kind of worldwide. It was in Guardian and Time Magazine. And I think just getting to the essence of what an event is and how it'll work for you on social media can be really helpful, whether it's a personality being there or an image. So in our group, we have the Free Press group, but we're definitely made up of people who've worked in PR and worked in media, and so we're trying to do the same job that the media is always doing, make something eye-catching.
Can we just for a second get to a specific sort of Brooklyn angle on this? Because just in our edit meetings, we talked about people joining the school board, something that Republicans in particular and people on the left have done particularly well, that they get organized and they don't get mad in the streets. They join the community boards or the school boards or get involved in local politics. But in this Brooklyn context, we sort of have a point of view, and your elected official might very well most likely share that. So in the Brooklyn context, what are we to do if it's not just an echo chamber saying, we're right? How do we, living in this Brooklyn bubble, push that forward?
Yeah, I mean,
well, tell us about
it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so from my other non-tax march, I think in New York it's actually really interesting, especially in the city, it's kind of this progressive home. But really when you look across New York State, there's a lot of local things that could happen. Right now, April 1st, just a couple days away, New York State is going to hopefully pass its budget. In the budget, there's things like the millionaire's tax or cutting tax for the wealthiest people in New York. Everyone loves tax cuts, but when we talk about tax cuts, that also means that we're going to see a cut to services. So if folks that are frustrated at the federal level or want to do something locally, I would say call your state senator, call your assemblyman, right? Demand that they are pushing policies that you believe in here in New York, because if New York is going to be a sanctuary state, we're going to need a little bit of money to put behind that. Yeah. And also, advocate that they get involved in the federal work, right? Their jobs at the state level, but they're still citizens, right? They can still come out and they can still help you market.
They still have a more powerful voice.
Besides resist Trump.
Yep.
There's still a lot of work to be done in our backyard before getting to the federal.